אז שלום, אנחנו כאן במוקסטק, הגענו לבוקר קריר ונעים, קצת שלג על הרצפה. אני אעשה לכם סיור קצת מבחוץ, ואז ניכנס, מרק יעשה לכם סיור בתוך המבנה ויראה לכם את המפעל מבתוכו. אז כאן אפשר לראות את מפעל האופטיקה, כאן מכינים בתוכו את המקטבים של מוקסטק, wire grid polarizers. בתוכו יש שם את הפאב, שם מנטפים את ה-wire grid על הוויפרים, וויפרים בקוטר של 200 מילימטר. בבניין הזה נמצא גם הפוסט-פאב, איפה שבסופו של דבר חותכים את הוויפרים, בודקים אותם, עושים הרכבות ואסמבליז, וגם בסוף גם אורזים את היחידות. אני כאן עם מרק לרסון, מרק עובד במוקסטק, וכאן יציג לנו, יעשה לנו סיור במפעל. So, hi Mark.
Hello.
What kind of tour are you going to give us?
So I will be giving you just a rough overview tour of the Moxtek facility where we do manufacturing of the wire grid polarizers on the 200 millimeter wafers. And then also we'll look at some of the processing that we do after we cut those wafers into different part sizes, do the inspection and the packaging.
Thanks, Mark. So let's go in.
Okay. All right, so when we receive in the 200 millimeter wafers on whatever substrate they might be on, it comes to this location where it gets staged for IQA. We do sampling checks on all of the material that comes in. Again, all of our processing is done on 200 millimeter substrates. We use semiconductor type processes to manufacture the product. So we follow kind of like the same routine for IQA as they do in the semiconductor industry. So when these wafers, after they've been staged, when they're ready to be IQA'd, they move into this area here, which inside here, they'll actually do specific checks on the wafers, verifying that dimensionally they're accurate, that if they have coatings on them, the coatings are correct. And just, we have just different routines we follow depending on what the substrate is. Now also, all of the incoming glass gets serialized, so it actually goes through a laser scribing process, and each wafer gets an individual wafer ID that contains the lot information. And again, that lot information is tracked all the way through the process so that we have all of the information from the beginning of the process to the very end. All right, so here we are located outside of one of the Class 100 clean rooms that we have here at Moxtek for manufacturing the wire grid polarizers. The process starts with the 200 millimeter wafers. We have a variety of substrates we use depending on what the product's ultimately going to be used for. But after the wafers get moved into the clean room space, and again, it's a Class 100, so all of the personnel gown from head to toe, as they would for doing other types of manufacturing like semiconductor processes. And in fact, we use semiconductor processes to do the majority of what we do to build the wire grid on the substrate. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a dummy wafer. So this is a scrap wafer that we have so that I can actually show the cutting process. Okay, so all of our wafers have a semi-notch on them. We use this jig to position the wafer on our cutting tool with the notch in an exact position, and that controls the transmission axis. And then at this point, we're actually ready to go ahead and commit the wafer to cutting. We call it a cutting process, but it's actually a mechanical scribe and break. So you can see the wafer is in one piece, and actually all I have to do is just lightly cleave it to actually vent the glass and allow it to singulate out into the parts. So the important thing about the wire grid is we make sure we only handle the pieces around the edge, because if we touch the wire grid surface, we will damage the product. All right, so again, one of the most important things is to make sure we have clean gloves. We always keep methanol at all of our stations to clean our gloves and to wipe down the workspace. After we're set up and we're ready to work on the product, we have the first most important thing is make sure you always identify which side is the wire grid versus which side is the glass on the part you're handling. Right now I have the wire grid facing towards me, and the first step is to blow it off. So we blow it off using dry filtered nitrogen. And then if we inspect the part under reflection and we don't see any defects that are beyond the visual criteria for the customer, and we also look at it here in the light box. At this point, if everything looks good, let's say this part is passing and I know it's good for the customer, then I want to make sure I use a semiconductor grade methanol and a clean room wipe, and I want to gently wipe the glass substrate surface of the part to make sure it's clean. Blow it off one more time, and then at this point this part would be ready to package and label, bag, and send off to the customer. So within the clean room, we also have flow hoods so that we can do critical assembly work, some sub-assembly as well as some final assembly work for different customers. And underneath the flow hoods, we're closer to a class 100 clean room. So we have the ability to work with different customers to be able to use specific types of mounts or different components that we actually put our polarizers into. And we typically, if it's not a mechanical type fit for the polarizer, we actually have the ability to do gluing using an epoxy, a 2-part epoxy. And we have this table set up where we can do that. We do all of the cleaning and sub-assembly, final assembly underneath this flow hood.